You were born on May 17th, 1979, in a small town in Sweden called Edsbyn. Your full name is Markus Alexei Persson, though most people would come to know you simply as Notch. Growing up, you were quiet and thoughtful, the kind of child who preferred sitting alone with a problem over playing outside with a crowd. Your parents divorced when you were young, and life at home carried a certain heaviness that children should not have to carry. But even through that uncertainty, you found comfort in two things: numbers and computers. They made sense in a way that the rest of the world sometimes did not.
At 7 years old, your father introduced you to a Commodore 128, and something clicked deep inside you. You sat in front of that machine and felt a pull that most kids your age simply could not explain or understand. By the time you were 8, you had already written your first simple program. It was not impressive by any measure, but that was never the point. You had made something from nothing, had given a machine instructions and watched it respond.
Through your school years, you were never the most social student, but you were always engaged with technology and logic in ways that set you apart. While other kids were focused on sports or social circles, you were drawn to figuring out how things worked beneath the surface. You taught yourself more about programming through experimentation than through any formal lesson. Sweden had a strong culture of technology and game development, even in those years, and growing up in that environment gave you access to ideas and tools that quietly fed your curiosity without you fully realizing it at the time.
After finishing school, you moved through various programming jobs, none of them particularly exciting or fulfilling. For a stretch of time, you worked at King, the mobile gaming studio that would later become famous for Candy Crush. The work was stable, the pay was reasonable, but nothing about it inspired you. You were solving other people's problems, building other people's visions. In your spare time, away from the office, you kept making your own small games. Most of them went unnoticed. A few gathered tiny audiences. But you kept going, kept learning, kept refining your instincts, because deep down, you believed you had something worth saying through the medium of games.
In 2009, you came across a small, unpolished game called Infiniminer, made by a developer named Zachary Barth under the name Zachtronics. The concept was stripped back and simple. Dig into the earth, mine resources, build structures, all within a world made entirely of blocks. There was no elaborate story, no cinematic presentation. And yet something about it reached you in a way that more expensive and polished games never had. You did not want to imitate it. What you wanted was to take the feeling it gave you,
That sense of open possibilities.
You began building what would become Minecraft almost entirely on your own, working late evenings and weekends while still holding down your regular job. The first public version appeared online in May 2009, rough and unfinished by any professional standard. There was no narrative to follow, no clear objective to complete, no polished visuals to admire. It was simply a world made of blocks, and you could place them or remove them as you pleased. And yet, players found it. They shared it with friends, posted about it in forums, and started doing things inside the game that you had never once planned or imagined. That surprised you more than anything else about those early days. Before the world knew it as Minecraft, your earliest internal builds carried a much simpler placeholder name: Cave Game. It described exactly what the experience looked like in those very first weeks of development. The world was dark, underground, blocky, and raw. There was almost nothing to it beyond the basic mechanics you were still testing. As the game began to take shape and move above ground into open landscapes, you changed the name. You combined the words mine and craft, two actions that sat at the very heart of what players were doing inside the world. It was a simple name, but it was honest, and it turned out to be exactly right.
What happened next was not the result of a marketing campaign or a publishing deal. It was entirely organic. Players began recording themselves inside Minecraft and uploading the footage to YouTube. Others wrote about it in gaming forums. Communities formed around sharing builds, discoveries, and ideas. The game was still unfinished, still being updated regularly, and people were following its development in real time, as though it were a living project they were part of. In a sense, it was. You listened to the community, added features, fixed problems, and shaped the game partly in response to what players were asking for. That relationship between you and your audience was unlike anything the games industry had seen at that scale before.
In 2010, you founded a small company called Mojang alongside a few friends and colleagues in Stockholm. It gave Minecraft a proper structure and a home, and it allowed the team around the game to grow at a measured pace. The office was informal and unpretentious, the kind of place where people wore casual clothes and worked on things they genuinely cared about. There were not many employees in those early years, but the team was focused and driven. Minecraft was still technically in development, still being sold as an unfinished product, and millions of people were already paying to play it and believing in what it was becoming.
On November 18, 2011, Minecraft was officially released at Minecon in Las Vegas, transforming a small project started alone in a modest apartment into a global phenomenon. As it became one of the best-selling games in history, success began to feel heavier than joyful, with constant expectations and pressure replacing the simple thrill of creating. In September 2014, believing the game had grown beyond what one person could carry, you sold Mojang and Minecraft to Microsoft for $2.5 billion and stepped away. Though some fans were upset, the decision was about personal survival, not money. After moving to Beverly Hills, the success that once seemed unimaginable felt isolating. And while you pursued smaller projects, you continued searching for the sense of purpose that Minecraft had once given you.